what we really learned from the pandemic is to understand what the customer wants, you know, and you can get that only if you mine your data. When everybody was doing takeouts and deliveries during the pandemic, there was so much data on there. Like people will go back to the same restaurants on Uber Eats and keep ordering the same thing. I mean, that is gold. What do you do with the data is then if I was a restaurant owner and I notice the same order keeps coming in from the same individual,
Yes.
I will market specific items towards that person. So that would help with increasing their sales.
I love that you said that because that's all we do. We capture data. Hi, my name is Brett Linkletter, CEO and co-founder of Dineline, a restaurant growth agency. We help restaurant brands of all sizes grow and scale to new heights, whether that means opening new stores or increasing revenue at existing locations. We have a done-for-you model where we take care of all of the work for our clients on the marketing front, and we also have a unique software solution called Dishio, which allows owners to showcase their restaurant in the best light possible online, while also turning guest interactions into data to increase profits. Right now, you're listening to our podcast, Restaurant Misfits, where we'll discuss all things related to restaurant marketing, management, and everything else in between growing a restaurant business. Scaling a restaurant today takes much more than having grit and hustle. In this age, it's about utilizing the newest technology, educating yourself on new platforms and trends, and having a deep understanding of how this industry is changing. This podcast is dedicated to keeping you up to speed with the latest and the greatest through interviewing the biggest and the best in the restaurant industry. As always, we appreciate you for being here, and we hope you enjoy the show. Michael, how are you?
Great. Thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. I'm so excited to chat. I know this was a pretty busy week for you guys last week with South Carolina food.
A little crazy.
Yeah.
But
How
it was
was
a lot
it?
of fun. It was a lot of fun.
Nice.
I mean, we couldn't have asked for better weather. It was in the 70s, starting from Friday onwards.
It was amazing, right?
Yeah, it's just like perfect weather. I'm not really sure how we pull it off year after year with this kind of weather. At some point, I'm sure our luck's gonna run out, but not anytime soon, I hope.
It's crazy because I was actually just thinking about that because literally Monday this week was like terrible.
Yeah.
And your biggest day was Sunday, it seemed.
Yeah.
So yeah, you guys pulled it off by a day. Literally, it's incredible.
Yeah. I remember one year, it was either 24 or 23. The last event ended on Sunday night at 9 o'clock, right? And then literally 9:15, the rain came.
No way.
And I'm going, how is this possible?
Oh my God.
We were so lucky.
Oh my God. So before we dive into this, Michael, I have so much I want to chat with you about. Stuff that my team has researched on you, stuff that I have personally found about you.
It's all fake.
Yeah. But what's actually interesting is for the first time, because I know you're deep in the hospitality world. You also are kind of a futurist from what I found. You like technology.
Yeah, I like technology.
Yes.
We like innovation.
Innovation, exactly. And so I've never done this before in a podcast, but I actually had AI do what's called deep research also on you. So
Which model?
it's 040, I think it was.
The ChatGPT, and
Yeah,
OpenAI.
yeah. And man, it found some really cool stuff about you, which I'm excited to chat about.
I used that too, and it's actually pretty good, I would say.
It's really good. It's really good. But before we get into all this stuff, would like to just give you the mic to just, if you can just give us a quick intro about yourself,
Sure.
and kind of how you got into doing what you're doing. That would be incredible.
Sure. I get asked that quite a bit, and it's like luck, a lot of luck, I would say. How I found myself here in this role as the dean is also, I think, I don't know what percentage luck, but also some percentage of hard work. Being recognized by your peers and them thinking that you can do it, and then at some point you have to have a little bit of self-assurance that you can do it, and then step up to the plate and do it. So I was born and raised in Malaysia, came here as an international student, and really my whole goal was to study MIS, Management Information Systems. But then I found myself quickly after one semester not really that passionate about it. It's just a lot of coding, a lot of sitting at a computer. And I changed majors at that point, followed my friends who were all studying business. Didn't really care for that either because it's too broad for me. And then my supervisor in the residence halls at that time told me, you should look into hospitality. I had no idea what hospitality is. When I talked to the professor, my advisor, who turned out to be my advisor, And she said, well, it's about hotels, restaurants, events. If you like working with people, you like to have a dynamic lifestyle. I said, sure. So I changed major, and that's how I ended up in doing hospitality.
Wow. So real quick, AI did find this about you, and they found a quote from you in some other podcast or something that said you felt like you were more of like a people person.
I am. Not sure why either, because I'm technically, I guess I'm really an introvert, but I like interacting with people. I'm not much for sitting behind the desk by myself.
You're an extroverted introvert.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice.
Exactly.
Nice. Very, very cool. And the program that now you are the dean of, is it one of the first in the country that did do, you call it
Culinology.
culinology? That's you coined that.
Well, I didn't coin the word. The word was invented by one of the early founders of the Research Chefs Association, and I fell into that one. So my first job in higher education was in Omaha, Nebraska, working for Metropolitan Community College, and I think it's about one semester into that job, they say, I need you to go to this conference because there's a bunch of research chefs. It was a Research Chefs Association conference. We want to learn what is it that they do. It was a culinary program that we were teaching. So I went there and talked to them. And they said, well, we do culinary arts and food technology together. We call it culinology. I said, well, how do you get to be in this role as a research chef? So, well, you need classes in culinary arts. You need a lot of experience, and you also need to understand food science and food technology. So I'm thinking to myself, say, well, who's teaching that? So nobody. Then they looked at me and go, well, would you guys be interested in doing that? I'm like, well, I got to go back and talk to my professors and see if we would do that. So that's how we ended up doing it. It was start off as a 2+2 program because I was in a culinary program. And then I reached back out to my alma mater where I graduated from, University of Nebraska-Lincoln, worked with them to get the food science and technology classes into it. And once we identified the classes, we needed a curriculum. So I was like, I have zero idea how to create a curriculum. But I think you put a bunch of classes together, you vet them, validate them with the advisory board and also with the board of directors for the RCA. And they say, yeah, make some changes here and there, and then we launched it. So that was in 2001 when we launched the culinology program at University of Nebraska-Lincoln.
Wow.
And then what's even crazier is, you sometimes you have ideas and you put it down on paper, it looks great, and then you believe in your ideas so much and you create something and you kind of hope that it's successful, right? So
For sure.
from that point onwards, we must have launched, we just kept launching one every year, the association. At one point, I thought to myself, I said, I wonder if the curriculum is even correct. What if they were not being prepared adequately to do the job that we thought they were going to be doing? So that's how I ended up with my doctoral dissertation topic.
Wow.
Essentially evaluating the Bachelor of Science in Culinology competencies and proposing a new model. Thank God, 90% of what we had proposed back then was accurate. So I was like, whew.
Wow. Well, this is amazing, man. I as we were talking even before we started the podcast, I've worked with 2,500 brands, 3 different countries, and I've never heard any of them even mention that term culinology.
Yeah, it is. To this day, let's see, 26 years later. Actually, the term was first coined in the mid-'90s. I think it was 96 or 97.
Got it.
There's still a lot of confusion.
And this has completely, I assume, shaped your career.
It has. I think it really gave me a sense and a passion for what I'm doing right now as the dean for the hospitality school, which is around learning competencies. It's like if you say you're going to teach a person how to do this, you can prepare them for this career, what are the skill set that you need? So I was able to take what I learned from the culinology discipline and then apply it towards the hospitality side of it.
So what are some of the key skills that you think someone needs in this industry? I mean, I know there's obviously a lot. It's hard to break down to just a couple, but what would be some of the top?
Within culinology?
Yes.
Yeah. So the whole goal about culinology is, can you create an individual who is artistic, strong on the culinary arts side, as well as understand the parameters that they work in within food processing. Mm-hmm. So they have to have a left brain and a right brain that works really well together. So you don't want them to sacrifice quality for the sake of shelf life. You also don't want them to sacrifice processing capability for the sake of artistry.
Got
So
it.
teaching them, this is what a dish should look like. This is what it should taste like. This is how you should. It's normally presented in a restaurant. Now, can you take that and make it so that it's shelf ready, shelf stable, meaning it doesn't need refrigeration or freezing, or can you make it so that it's freeze thaw stable, so that you don't lose quality over time as it's being frozen. So those are the kind of parameters we teach our students.
I feel like it's such a small percent of restaurant owners today or chefs today that are implementing any of this.
It is.
I assume.
Yeah. I think a lot of chefs are very good in the kitchen. Understanding science is not something that comes easily, but sometimes those sauces are the best. So I've always been a big admirer of Asian sauces and how good they taste. Somebody that knows what they're doing.
Yeah, 100%. It seems like there's been a huge increase, and I guess like Asian fusion concepts, by the way, here in Miami. Would you agree?
Asian fusion concept, I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say there's been a lot of interest in Asian foods. I think perhaps more on the ethnicity of it, so not Asian food in general, but like Malaysian food perhaps, or Singaporean food.
For sure, for sure. And obviously, I know you're from Malaysia originally.
Yes.
You came here, you built your career. Do you still go back often? I saw you go a little bit back and forth, potentially.
I go about once a year. The best thing about growing up in Malaysia is the food. I think that's really why I ended up in hospitality. It's just so diverse, so many flavors, so many options.
So I've spent, like I mentioned, that my fiance is Brazilian. I spent a lot of time in Brazil, and it's interesting. Oh, you gotta check it out at some point. And I've spent a lot of time down there. I lived in São Paulo for 7 months in 2023. And what's funny enough is it gave me a lot of the ideas about our product today, Dishio, from living there. Taking some ideas of actually restaurant tech in Brazil and bringing it to the US. Do you feel like, likewise, your experiences in Malaysia, you might have taken some concepts there and brought it here, or vice versa?
In terms of food?
Food or anything of what you do. Concepts, skill sets, managerial skill sets.
I don't know. I think, U.S. is very advanced in many ways. Malaysia, I would say, is not quite not what I would call a developing country, but still has some ways to catch up.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Food-wise, though, I think, there's still a lot of artisan-type foods and menu items and restaurants that are out there. I'm not sure that they translate well to the U.S. consumer, to the Western consumer.
Got it.
So
got it.
Might be, I always see it as a great adventure, food adventures especially.
100%. No, I hear you on that. And so let's talk real quick about South Beach Wine and Food, because I think for some people here based in Miami, I'm pretty sure everyone knows what it is at this point. You guys have been doing this 24 years now?
24 years.
It's crazy, right? This was actually my first year, by the way, and we had an excellent time. So just want to say props and again, congrats.
This is your first year?
My first year doing it. But keep in mind, I was in California, I was in Brazil. Now I'm finally here. I've only been there for 2 years. So I'm still a newbie to Miami. But yeah, man, we had an incredible experience.
Which one did you go to?
We went to Thursday. We went, which I think it was like
Burger Bash?
the happy hour thing with the
director's welcome.
Director's welcome. Yes. And then I went to FoodieCon on Saturday.
Oh, nice.
And then my team also went Sunday. I couldn't make Sunday, unfortunately.
The day event on Sunday.
The day event on Sunday.
Grand tasting.
Yes, the grand tasting. Yeah. But we had the whole team had an incredible time. I had an incredible time for everything I've done. Did
they stay for the David Grumman show?
I didn't. I wish I did.
Oh, that was a blast.
I really wanted to be there. In fact, I was speaking to some of my team about it, and I didn't hear back, and I don't know what the situation was, but I didn't get to make it. But next year, 100%, I will be there.
Well, you're my guest next year. Oops.
Let's do it. I'm super in. So tell us about that, how that got started, and how it's benefited FIU.
So the South Beach Wine Food Festival actually started on our campus way back in 1997.
Wow.
It was a project of our wine professor, Patrick Chip Cassidy. He unfortunately passed away about 6 years ago now. And he said to his sponsor, I guess, which is at that point was Southern Wine and Spirits. And he goes, well, we should do like a wine and food pairing event on campus. So from that one idea, came Florida Extravaganza. It was
Wow.
a wine food pairing, bunch of wines that were being tasted. Southern Wine and Spirits at that time was the major sponsor on that one. And then we held it initially at the Covens Conference Center, and it was always around March, February. And we said, this is beautiful weather. It should be outdoors. So we moved it outdoors
Wow.
next to our building, the Chaplain School. At that point, it wasn't called a Chaplain School. And then Southern Wine and Spirits at that point says, well, there's a lot of potential here. And they asked their new director of special events at that time, Lee Schrager. And he came in his 5th year. He looked at it. He goes, man, there's so much potential. Let's bring it down to South Beach. So that was in 2002.
Wow.
We did it in South Beach. And from that point on, you have the South Beach Wine and Food Festival.
Oh my God.
So if and this year is his 24th year, next year is his 25th. So we're very excited. I think that's a
And you guys do an event in New York as well, right?
yeah. So Lee started the New York Wine Food Festival a couple years after he started the South Beach Wine Food Festival. But for us, we're the only benefactor from the South Beach Wine Food Festival. Whereas I think the New York one benefits another charity out there.
Got it.
And it's grown. So it went from a 1-day event to a 2-day event. Now it's 4 days.
It's crazy.
65,000 guests.
Oh my God.
And to date, it's raised over $40 million in proceeds for the Chaplain School students in terms of scholarship support as well as operational support.
That is
It's
amazing.
incredible. But the best part about it really is the student. The hands-on, experiential student that you get, experience you get for the students out of it.
Huge.
They get to be in leadership positions, logistics, marketing, food and beverage preparation.
It's huge.
It's incredible.
It's very hands-on experience. I was reading that about you too, by the way. I pulled this up. It was that you push a lot of programs that are not incredibly traditional, more experiential learning, which I by the way, I think that's amazing.
Yeah.
I think that's huge.
Yeah, 3 years ago now, we revived the green team. So we saw definitely that was the direction everybody in the industry was going to, was sustainability and recycling. And that idea actually came 10 years before that, but nobody was ready at that point. So we ran it, the green team for a couple of years and then just kind of put a stop on it because nobody really believed in it. The first year we did it here, we added 300 more students working the festival.
Wow.
And we partnered with Clean Vibes, and they set up these containers. We actually saw guests walking further to get rid of the trash and plates because they wanted to recycle. And that, in the first year, to me, was a signal that people wanted this. So
Interesting.
we brought it back the second year and the third year. And we've been able to divert 83,000 pounds of waste from the landfill because of doing that.
Wow.
As well as rescue, I think it's like 33,000 pounds of food that goes towards the homeless shelter.
Oh my
the
God.
mission. And the composting was another 22,000 pounds that we saved, which equates to roughly 140 trees that we can plant. So the output is incredible. And the students love it.
That's amazing. So talk to me about like logistics and planning. How early on do you guys start planning this thing out?
It's a continuous planning process.
Is it like a year-long thing?
It is. There is a full-time team at FIU that works on the festival. That's all they do all year long.
So they're already starting now.
They're already starting for
Oh
the
my
25th year. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, when we work with donors and sponsors, we are always asking for signing multi-year contracts with them. So we know if someone's contract is going to be up in 2 years, and we start planning what the next thing should be. But we're also looking at innovative things that we can do at the festival each year too. Like what are fan favorites? For Burger Bash, it's been there forever. People just love burgers.
Yes.
So we keep that one.
That's with the Chef Rush at FoodieCon? I
The
think?
FoodieCon was new. Yes,
Got it. Oh, that's new. Okay, got it.
FoodieCon came out 3 years ago. And then so we look at different events and we see what the response is. So
Got it.
Tacos and Tequila was one that was started off as a late night 10 p.m. event, smaller, and now it's a main event that starts at 6:30. And same thing with Asian Night Market. It was a late night event that started at 10 o'clock. Now it's a Sunday night event.
This is incredible. This is so cool. You guys work with, I read here, like 500 plus chefs during the event.
The logistics is crazy.
How would you even, I can't even imagine. Because we have tons of clients that, let's just say employee doesn't come in, someone's sick, someone doesn't show up. 500 people coordinating around an event, 65,000 guests. How do you manage that?
It's a lot of hands-on, but it's also one of the best learning lessons for the students.
For sure.
Be ready to pivot. Okay, nothing's really goes the way you plan it. Although I have to say, in this 24 year of the South Beach Wine Food Festival history, things continue to get better and better. We used to have, I remember, like a laundry list. Okay, this didn't go right, that didn't go well. But now the list keeps getting shorter and shorter. Now it's like, man, the students are like clockwork. That's what we keep hearing now. Students know exactly what they're doing. They're well trained. They come back year after year. So working with 500 plus chefs, we have to take into account all their needs. We knew that this year for the Tournament of Champions live on Friday night, we had a lot of out-of-town chefs. And when you have out-of-town chefs, they don't bring along their sous chefs or their kitchen helpers. So we provide all of that stuff.
Oh, wow.
We start prepping on Tuesdays.
Oh, my God.
With them.
That's incredible, man. Well, hey, congrats, man. I love to hear that, and we had an amazing time, and we will definitely be back next year.
I hope so.
I want to talk to you a little bit about just like industry trends, somewhat of like the future of hospitality. We hear quite a bit, whether it's from our clients or other people in the industry. I've always felt, especially my background actually started with e-commerce.
Oh, nice.
And I like e-commerce, and I liked e-commerce a lot back in the day, purely for really one reason. As an advertiser, it was very simple and easy to track the return on investment, right? So, for example, if I want to buy a pair of sunglasses online, the e-commerce store can very easily see when someone clicks add to cart, gets to the checkout page, gets to the thank you page, and purchases, right? And so if I'm running an ad online, for example, I can very easily determine my cost per acquisition. And so for me as let's just say an agency owner, I like that industry because it was very simple. Hey, if I could show a return on investment through these ads, I'll keep the client forever.
Yeah.
Where I moved into the restaurant space, oh man, when it came to tracking ROI, understanding tech, they were like 30 years behind, it felt, right?
Yeah.
And so we've now been in this industry for about 7 years, focused on the restaurants just for the last 7 years. And like I said before, we worked with quite a few brands, but still today, I feel like restaurant owners are still behind, but I feel like they're starting to finally really embrace some new tech.
Yeah.
And
I think the pandemic helped that too.
I think so as well.
Yeah.
Right. What are some trends that you're seeing right now within tech within the hospitality space?
Well, I think AI is a big thing. Automation, robotics. I don't think robotics is there yet. But what we really learned from the pandemic is to understand what the customer wants, and you can get that only if you mine your data. So when everybody was doing takeouts and deliveries during the pandemic, there was so much data on there. Like people will go back to the same restaurants on Uber Eats and keep ordering the same thing. That is gold, right?
Yes.
So what do you do with the data is then if I was a restaurant owner and I notice the same order keeps coming in from the same individual,
yes,
I will market specific items towards that person. So that would help with increasing their sales. And I think restaurateurs are getting to be a little more savvy. At the end of the day, in the restaurant business is still a people business. Right? You still gotta make the connection.
For sure.
If you think about how restaurants grew and how they got successful, it's usually started with someone who's a very good front of the house, perhaps it's the owner, and they go around, they know everybody's preferences and tastes, but it's not a scalable model because you're great for one location. Can you do it at a different location? Well, you can't split the owner in half, so you need data, right?
For sure.
And this is where I think technology comes in.
So I love that you said that because that's all we do. We capture data, right? I think everything is about the data, but I think for a lot of restaurant owners, they still don't really get it, right?
Yeah.
And what you're mentioning, it's important to know what the customer wants. I also say to take a step further, I think it's important to know where do we even begin to collect that data, right? So you mentioned if someone buys something online, let's say through Uber Eats or an online ordering platform, yes, we have that data. And the first step is a restaurant needs to be able to look at it and do something with it, right?
Exactly.
So we can all agree with that, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
Half the time, these owners don't even want to look at any numbers or look at the computer screen for even a minute. But what about people coming into the restaurant? any tech or trends you've seen to be able to track some of this data of these people coming through?
Yeah, I think the kiosks, especially at fast casual locations,
Yes.
that is collecting so much data right there. And one of my favorite taco places right outside the Biscayne Bay campus is Talking Tacos. So nobody takes an order from you. It's 2 kiosks. And every time I go there, I'm pretty sure it's tracking everything I'm ordering each time. And that's a great opportunity there for the screen to actually be customized to my preferences.
Does it how does it do that? Is it collect like a phone number or email to do so?
You sign in first, right?
Oh, really?
Yeah. But sometimes some of the kiosks I've seen is after, right? They ask you for a phone number, so they send you a text when your order is ready.
Got it.
Well, that right there is data collection.
Interesting. No, that's incredible.
There's so much.
What's the brand called that's doing this?
The QSR is Talking Tacos.
Talking Tacos. Okay.
I forget what the platform that they're using is.
Got it.
But
Very cool.
You know the big, I think it's McDonald's. They started doing kiosks as you walk in, and those are all really easy to customize. It's just really who you are when you walk
I've
in.
heard some crazy things about McDonald's recently. Like apparently they're implementing some tech within their drive-throughs where it's an AI ordering system. So you come in, you talk about what you want. It's not someone on a microphone, right?
Yep,
It's just an AI.
Yep.
And you order, and as you're ordering, there's a camera looking at you. And if they can notice that your facial expression looks, let's just say, sad or not so happy, they'll give you like a free ice cream or something.
That's awesome.
Is that crazy?
That is awesome.
It's really crazy. And then they'll take it a step further and they'll start, just by you pulling up, they'll start remembering who you are. And
Yeah.
if you can now take that facial recognition to what you ordered last, to your point,
Yeah.
you can do some incredible things.
Exactly.
I mean, that's,
Exactly. I think
so
there's a lot of opportunities there. You know, I usually place my Starbucks order from the app.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure I order the same thing every time.
yes, no, I'm the same way. I used to live literally in, I was in Marina Del Rey before this in California. And there was a Starbucks 1 block from where I lived. And I'm pretty sure same thing. I would wake up, go to the Starbucks app, order the same thing daily.
Yeah.
They could have probably started preparing it just 7 in the morning every day. I'd go pick it up.
Exactly.
Like, make
Yeah.
a subscription, honestly.
Yeah.
So I love the kiosks. And we're talking to some pretty big brands right now in Central and South America that use kiosk systems in these fast food restaurants. And they said the same thing. It's a great data collection tool.
Yep.
What about brands that are like full service sit down brands? They seem to have problems collecting data, collecting information about guests coming through. Other than if it's you make a reservation, but everyone else.
Yeah. And I think that really goes back to the management. So full service sit-down restaurants, your customers want the personalized attention. Like they want to know that you know who they are when they walk in. They would love to be greeted by the name. Oh, hi, Mr. Cheng, welcome. We have your table reserved over here, and tonight's special is da-da-da-da, because they've looked me up and they know what I like.
Absolutely.
Or look at my Instagram, for that matter.
Yeah.
So I think creating that that ability to really connect with the customers is important. But where I see AI fitting in on that is doing the research, just like how you did the research on me before we started doing this. All you have to do is put in your guest reservation, the name, into AI and find their Instagram handle. And then say, what do you think this customer likes? And then start making those suggestions.
So what I'm hearing is basically personalization. There needs to be more personalization.
Exactly.
Yeah. Yep. Absolutely.
I don't think fine dining will ever go away from the customer service part of it. I think that's just far too important for us.
Well, 100%. Well, I think again, I had a really interesting experience recently. Have you been to Claw, right above Casadona?
Yep.
And so I went there recently, and I remember I had some steak that was just incredible. And they have a couple steaks on their menu, and I couldn't figure out which one it was. And so I asked my waitress, I was just here a month ago. I don't know which one it was, but I was trying to describe it. And she's like, oh, you were here. He's like, let me look you up. She went back to her computer and saw exactly what I ordered. And she goes, you got the this, and the this. And I was so impressed. It was like, this is amazing.
Yeah. It just makes for a great experience. At the
Oh
end.
man, it was like such a breath of fresh air where I was like, I was so nervous to get the wrong steak, and thank God it was the right one. You know, it was incredible.
Yeah.
But what I'm still getting hung up on, and this is a problem I've heard from a lot of people too, is just like, let's just say you and I go to dinner, and there's a group of like 4 other people with us, so a group of 6. Okay, let's say I make the reservation. They have the information on me that booked, but there's 5 other people that would be extremely amazing to have the information on. Any other tools or tech you've come across that allows you to collect information on these people, these other guests?
That's a great question. I have not experienced where someone's collecting information on my table. You know, but and you're absolutely right. They have the information on me because I make the reservation.
Exactly.
But none of the other people. It just brings back to memory about 7 years ago when I first started traveling to China. And I noticed all the payment systems was on WeChat or Alipay.
Yeah.
I'm thinking to myself at that point, it's like, wow, this is pretty advanced. In the US, we're still taking cash, and you guys are just completely contactless.
Everything's digital.
Yeah.
I know.
And then it occurred to me at that point, they're actually collecting my data because they know what I'm ordering, and it's all being tied back to their payment system. So I'm wondering if maybe something like this could happen here.
For sure. I think it's starting to happen. I've seen, it seems like in the UK that they're also moving more towards pay at the table with like, you know, there's a QR code that just updates with your check. So you can simply just scan and pay instead of having to wait for the waiter to come by. Sometimes you want to pay and leave, turn the table, no one's to be found.
Yeah, exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
And again, I spent a lot of time in Brazil. I actually found some pretty cool tech in Brazil while I was there. It's interesting. So in Brazil, most restaurants do QR code menus versus in the US, I think it's a lot less.
Yeah.
I think in the US, we still have this stigma about QR code menus. Oh, this is what we did during COVID.
Yeah.
I don't know if this is for me, blah, blah, blah. Brazil, they really embrace it because, I mean, some stats on Brazil is I think only 2% of the population speaks English.
Okay.
And so, but they have a lot of foreigners that come through. So they like the QR code menus because they can have their menu displayed in 4 different languages, for example. Makes things a lot easier.
With pictures.
Yeah, and with pictures too. People eat with their eyes, right? And so it was interesting. I had an experience there with my fiance. This is a couple years ago. We're at dinner, and I speak pretty good Portuguese now, but at the time, it was pretty minimal, right? So I'm scanning the menu. I scan the menu, and to my surprise, the menu just pops up automatically in English. And in this moment, I was like, first I was just confused. I had a couple drinks, and I was like, am I getting really good at Portuguese, or what's going on, right? So I asked my fiance, girlfriend at the time, is your menu in English? This is really tripping me out. What's going on? She goes, no, it's in Portuguese. Well, yours is in English? I said, yeah. So then our waiter comes by, and I ask him, what's going on here? Like, you know, my menu's in English. How did you do that?
Yeah.
He's like, oh, well, you're American, right? And I said, yeah. He goes, well, and the menu's kind of cool, right? It's smart, and it can actually see the settings in your phone are in English, and it auto translates now to English for you.
Oh my God.
It's crazy, right? So
That just blew my mind.
right, it's crazy. And so we talk about personalization, and so this got me thinking. They could tell that based on the settings on my phone. What else can this kind of tech learn about me from just scanning a QR code? And that is actually how we came up with our product Dishio, which I really want to talk to you about, maybe off the podcast.
I would love to learn more. Yeah.
That was how this all happened, and it's so interesting because it seems so simple, yet it is so profound for people like us, right, who are deep in the space.
Yeah.
And it turns out you can find out a lot about someone. And talk about personalization, where you can have a digital menu that's in whoever's native language you want. Now with AI, it can be any language, basically. I mean, it's getting really advanced.
Yeah.
And not just that, but I've always really felt, for example, I love steak. You mentioned earlier you love foods with Asian sauces, right? Yeah. And we all have these preferences of food. Your Instagram newsfeed, my Instagram newsfeed, they're also very different based upon algorithms.
Right.
Why can't there be a menu that is customized to your preference? It knows what you had last time. It's right there on the menu. It can maybe make suggestions based upon other experiences you had at other restaurants.
Yeah.
Maybe you were at Carbone, you like the rigatoni.
Yeah.
Now you show up to another restaurant and you're seeing the rigatoni as another suggestion because it knows data across different platforms and stores.
Yeah.
And I think this is the world we might be heading in potentially.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there is also the operational feasibility of it, because you cannot have a menu that's customizable to the 1,000 guests that you might get in a week, with all different preferences.
Yeah,
because then your inventory just forget about it. Right?
It's crazy.
Yeah, you have to stock everything literally. I'm not sure how that would be actually financially feasible.
Or what it would be is it's still everything that would typically on the menu, but potentially it's changing based on the person looking at it.
Yeah,
That's why that's about the kiosk. I thought that was so interesting how like you basically log in with your phone number, I assume. Just put in your phone number and then it remembers.
Exactly.
That's the coolest thing ever.
Like all these apps that we have on our phones when we make orders. I mean, your profile is set up. And it should automatically tell you, hey, I recommend this thing to go with this thing.
Do you feel like people though have some kind of hesitation to put in their phone number when they're placing an order through the kiosk?
I don't know. I've just never really thought much about it because I want to get my food, And
Because no, I'm like you. I would have just done it, but I just know a lot of people. I don't know.
There's probably could be a percentage that a little hesitant to share that much information. I wonder about the data privacy internationally. I'm not sure if there's an issue as much overseas compared to the U.S.
Yeah,
we're very protective of our data here.
You're giving me some really good ideas though for our product. Like I almost feel like because our menu product is a digital menu in store, accessed through a QR code or an NFC chip, and it's kind of interesting to think that you could put a phone number in to then view the menu personalized.
Yeah. And really, with the speed of computing these days, it's instantaneous.
You're right.
And what AI has allowed us to do, replace positions, for instance, mundane stuff, you could do that too with the apps.
You could. It's interesting also in Brazil? So they do, not all restaurants, but I thought this was very interesting. So some restaurants, what they do, a lot of clubs do this too. You walk into the restaurant and they ask for one of two things, which one thing is a phone number. And basically they give you give them your phone number. They give you a wristband with a number on it.
Yep.
And every time you order, they just mark the wristband. Then you walk out and you pay with a number at checkout.
Yeah.
And it's very convenient. So if you have a big group, and let's just say I want to order, appetizer for the table, I can add it to my bill. We all have separate bills, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah.
The other thing they do is they'll ask for what's called your CPF number,
which is
basically their social security number.
And the people give them up.
People give it to them. Is that crazy? They do the same thing.
That is crazy.
So I always look at
it's like handing over your credit card,
right?
And then
it's and this is why I think it's obviously I know you're from Malaysia and I'm living here. I think it's so important for people to have an experience living in another country at least for a little bit because every country culturally is so different. The U.S. you can never imagine giving your social security number to someone, a waiter here in the U.S. But in Brazil, they hand it out like it's candy. Like it's crazy. Like
it is crazy.
It's crazy.
Yeah.
But what I love about the whole getting a wristband, which I know some restaurants are probably listening to this and thinking I would never do that. But if you're a bar, for example, the convenience to not have to charge a credit card every single time, only one time when the person leaves the venue, is very convenient.
Yeah. So the wristband has a chip?
The wristband has like a 4-digit number on it. And so let's just say, you order a drink at the bar or whatever. They just ask for your 4-digit number. They add it to your bill. Then when you leave, there's just a line to leave and you pay to check out. You order whenever you want to go.
So for years in the U.S., when you go to the bar and you open a tab, in the past, you used to have to leave your credit card. Now I don't think they make you leave your credit card anymore, right?
I don't know. Maybe it depends on the venue.
There has always been, because you go out there, you have a great time, and then you forget to close the tab, or you leave without closing the tab. And
I left my card several times,
right?
At certain venues.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now, what if they just scan it one time, and then every time you go up there, order a drink, and they're just recording the 4-digit number?
Yeah. No, I agree. I think it's there's a certain level of convenience, but I've been trying. And I'm really working on closing that gap from what you talked about earlier, personalization, all the way to the checkout process. Because like you mentioned, data is truly everything here.
Yeah, yeah.
This is how the e-commerce brands have blown up over the last 10, 15 years, specifically online.
Yeah.
You know, versus where it was before, only being able to sell through wholesalers or retailers. I mean,
Yeah.
you know.
Even NFC too, if we could implement that at the bar.
Yeah.
You know, just tap and then that creates the account right away.
Yeah.
You know, I'm all for Apple products and the ecosystem.
Totally.
The AirDrop works miraculously most of the time, not every single time.
Yes.
But if something like this was foolproof.
I like. Have you been to Soho House here in Miami?
In Miami, yes.
Like,
Yeah.
you know, when you check in, you know, you take out the phone wallet, you check in, you tap, and then you say, oh, I got 2 guests with me, whatever. I thought what Soho does with their system is incredible.
What do they do different?
So instead of like a normal restaurant, right, you have to check in per usual. And you show up, you scan in. Through the app, whatever I order, they take my Soho number on my phone, just like the wristband. And now I start building a tab, except the wristband example, it changes every time. Soho, I have my membership number.
Yeah.
Right? And so I can order a couple drinks, food, whatever, and I can just check out through the phone. The only difference is I'm like a member of Soho, so it's like a running tab where going to a restaurant, you'd essentially have to like make an account every time.
Yeah.
Right? Which poses a problem.
You know, cruise ships, I think it was 3-4 years ago, it was Carnival when they did the medallion. And it was basically tracking you on throughout the entire ship. You use the little wristband medallion to order, to pay for stuff, and to do whatever you want. You know, and you could be sitting at the pool, place the order on your app, and then the server will find you, no matter where you're at.
Really?
Yeah. I'm not sure if that's still going on. And I do remember seeing the same technology at the Disney theme parks.
Wow.
Right? But I heard that they have since replaced the wristbands because everybody has a smartphone.
Yes.
The smartphone is really tracking you.
Yeah.
And you feel, it's crazy. You feel so comfortable sharing a lot of information on your own phone, even though it's tracking it the whole time.
Yes.
And sharing the information out to everybody else.
It is interesting. But I'm just happy, man, that like that's of all the answers you could have given me, like data seems like it's kind of number one.
It is. It
Um,
is.
So let's talk what else. What are some other things that you see? Because I'm obviously you are deep in this space. You've worked with tons of students. What do you think right now? What would you say are some opportunities in this space? What are some opportunities, new opportunities that you've seen in recent years?
I think students in general, most of our students are very creative and innovative. And we have to create the space for them to think outside of the box. You know, sometimes I feel like I'm getting to the point where I'm going to be old and jaded and, oh yeah, we've done it before 10 years ago or 15 years ago, but you know, it's keeping yourself fresh, knowing that you're being surrounded by young, fresh minds with ideas that haven't failed as much as perhaps you have. So therefore, they're eager to try new things and just encouraging them to do that stuff. And that's what we do really well with our students. We say, yeah, why not? You know, you got this idea. We might have seen a version of it years ago, but circumstances today are different. You know, you got new technology helping you. You got
For sure.
connections, and where we can come in as professors and administrators of higher education is to help make the connection, help them with the networking. You know,
For
we could
sure.
go, yeah, that's a great idea. I happen to know somebody who has a space who can help you get to that point.
Yeah.
And then you help them in that sense.
Yeah. The thing about technology too is I've always felt sometimes the market isn't ready for tech yet. Like for example, God, one of my best friends growing up, even we've known each other since we were like little kids. This was like 2000. God, what year is it? I think it was like 2008. He was starting a little business with QR codes in California, and he went to the city council and he was like, "Hey, I think every store in town should have like this QR code." Nobody knew what it was.
Yeah.
That has information about each store, like on the window, and it'd be like a really cool, fun way for the city to unite and have like this database of all the businesses in the city. And when I first heard it, thought this was incredible. But you know, I remember back then you needed a special app to scan a QR code. Nobody knew what it was, and it never worked. Right? It flopped.
Yeah.
And
And it's crazy. The pandemic brought it back.
And the pandemic made it huge. What are your thoughts? I know we've already talked about this, but I mentioned QR codes were huge in Brazil. Here, they're, I think it's kind of 50-50. What are your thoughts personally with QR codes in the restaurant?
Way back in, I want to say it was the late 2000s when QR code first came out. And I learned about it, and I loved the design of it and how you could customize it, put a little logo in the middle there, and you still scan. But you're right, it required a special app to scan it, and then it would take you to someplace, right? And back then, I thought to myself, I said, man, what if we didn't need paper business cards anymore? What if we just had a recyclable or reusable business card with a QR code, and that's all we needed? And I said, well, that apparently at that point didn't exist.
Yeah.
So then I said, well, I don't want to have all these words on the front of my business cards. I'm going to put a QR code on the backside of it. I had to convince our university to print double-sided business cards.
Wow.
So I think this was around 2009, 2010. And it literally did not take off. It's like people had no idea what to do with it. They looked at it and go, okay. Or they didn't have the app, so they didn't scan it. So it died. And then it's crazy, 10 years after that, pandemic hits, and now everybody knows what to do with it.
Exactly.
And it's widely adopted.
And now I think the next phase is NFC chips, like you mentioned, but people still are confused. Like, what do I do?
Yeah,
Do I touch it? Like, what
Yeah.
do I do? So, I guess, but do you, some restaurant owners have a very strong opinion about QR codes in store, and they don't like it. Some are like, yes, please.
Yeah.
What are your personal thoughts?
I think it depends on the occasion.
Yeah.
What kind of food and what kind of restaurant it is. So if it's fast casual, if it's someplace that's a real quick in and out, or it's a local burger, pizza joint, I think QR code's perfect for those situations.
Perfect. Yeah.
And then I think when it comes to fine dining, people still want to be presented the menu. I guess it's customary. They still want the process.
Yeah.
They still want to open it, and then I would love to see more fine dining restaurants actually move towards a iPad or QR code for the wine list. Because every time they hand me a wine list,
the search is insane.
I know.
Yeah.
They're flipping pages. I'm like, okay, I give up. I'm gonna pick a country and pick a color.
Yes. So, wow, I got to show you our product because you can do that in our product. By the way,
That's awesome.
So yeah, and it's funny. So have you been to Kiki's on the river?
No.
Have you heard of it?
I've heard of it. Yes.
Okay. God, incredible brand. I mean, they won't confirm these numbers, but through my research, they're doing like over 35 million a year on one store.
No way.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's incredible. And so congrats to them. I mean, it's incredible.
That is incredible.
They signed up with us about like 7 weeks ago, and they started with just the product at the bar for exactly what you said. They're like, big list of drinks, wine lists, whatever. This is easy. Let's put it at the bar.
Yeah. And I've seen menus where you can go select by the spirits.
Yeah.
Right. So same thing with the wine. If looking for something a little lighter, something a little heavier,
Easier.
Just click, and it would actually help. I think the younger generation drink more wine.
Yeah, I think you're right.
Just to make it simplify it,
Or actually, even what if there was like an AI tool that you can like ask? Because sometimes people don't know what to wine. I want something that's light, or I want something a little heavier, a little bolder, drier, whatever.
Yeah.
Boom, this is my suggestion.
Yeah, we have a name wine studies program here at FIU Chaplain School. It's the Vidaldo Wine Studies program. One of my proudest accomplishments is getting a name wine studies program by a Hispanic family and named after a woman.
Yep.
First of a kind in the country, in a state that doesn't produce wine, but consumes the second largest consumption in wine.
Wow.
So that's Florida. And we're thinking to ourselves, okay, this is great. Like 2024 was great. Then we started seeing a downward trend on consumption. And it's not just wine, it's spirits as well.
Yeah.
And when you start talking to the industry professionals, and they go, the spirits industry has kind of caught on earlier than the wine industry. They've made, like for instance, Patron, there's a big push on it. They made it trendy. Right, and you see a bunch of different tequilas out there too. So they're all competing against each other. The wine industry still, you have your French wine. They want to maintain its I don't know, I call it stuffiness, and they want to keep it so that it's proper, and there's all these different appellations and all these different regions, and you're like, oh my God, it's so confusing.
Yeah.
But if you break it down, I just want something light. I prefer red wine. I don't want it too tannic. And then here's my 5 options. Boom.
Makes it way easier.
Yeah. Maybe the consumption will go back up.
Yeah. So I always felt like this reminds me of, it's not a very great wine. I think we can all agree. Yellowtail wine, you know.
Yep, I'm familiar with it.
Yeah. So it's not an incredible wine. All right. But what was actually very interesting about them, and this is funny. So I went to USC in college and California, and there was a business case study about them that we learned in school. And they were genius because on their wine bottles, they would say, you know, this pairs well with a medium rare red steak.
Yeah.
This pairs well with salmon, whatever.
Yeah.
This pairs well with something. And so you
On
can
the bottle.
on the
On
bottle.
the bottle. But
Yeah.
where that connection doesn't happen is on the menu.
Yeah, no, I completely get it. But I think to your point, it is brilliant though, because a lot of people they're confused by what to order. They have
Yeah.
no idea.
There's just so many options out there.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
it is.
Yeah.
It's a little overwhelming. And to your point, there's nothing more annoying than sitting at a table that's, let's just say, mind you, a small table for 2, let's just say, and this book takes up half the table. I mean, what the heck? Like
Yeah, I know.
it's crazy. And so tell me about, you've been in Miami for quite a long time now.
It's
Tell
only
me-
10 years.
Yeah, longer than me. I've only been 2. So, but this last 10 years in particular, I feel like Miami, the hospitality scene has changed so much.
Oh, incredible.
It's crazy. And I was just in New York 2 weeks ago, and it was funny because I feel like historically, Miami was, or I guess New Yorkers always felt like they were way ahead of the food scene in comparison to Miami. But now we're actually starting to see some brands start in Miami to move to New York. Pura
Yep.
Vida, for example, is one of
Yep.
them.
Yeah.
Tell me what you think has been the most, I guess, profound or interesting changes you've seen in the last couple of years.
I think the Miami food scene, it's as you said, it probably started getting really hot more than, I say, 5 years ago. You know,
Yeah.
when you started seeing restaurants move in here from New York, as you said. And then when the Michelin Guide came in, that was 3 years now, I think it's 3 years, yeah. That really made it even more popular. But it's beyond the food scene. It's the culture, the ethos of Miami, the celebration. You know, people here are just always happy, you know?
Yes.
And because before I moved to Miami 10 years ago, I was living in the Midwest in South Dakota and went to school in Lincoln, Nebraska, right? So I was there for 23 years. And I always said that, man, if I had started down in Miami by going to school, I might not actually have finished school. I might have been having a little too much fun.
I agree. Miami's a good time.
And then you see all these corporations come into, like Citadel. You know, when Ken Griffin decides to move his entire company from Chicago
Crazy.
down here, he's bringing a lot of people. You know, and people have needs, you know, so they're looking for the same kind of services. So then there's a gap. And this is where I think the younger generation, our students, whether in hospitality or not, has opportunities to fill those gaps.
Yeah, I agree. It's so interesting for me too because, again, I'm from California originally. Went to USC, stayed in LA. I think LA has a pretty good food scene. And then I came here for a little bit, went to Brazil, lived in Brazil for like 7 months. São Paulo, amazing food scene too.
Yep.
São Paulo, interesting enough, has the highest population of Japanese outside Japan.
No kidding.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Why is
the
that?
sushi is phenomenal in São Paulo.
Wow, I didn't know.
I don't know. There was a huge migration there, and there's a lot of Japanese in São Paulo. It's super interesting.
Fascinating.
It's so interesting. My fiance's stepdad is Japanese. And long story short, the food scene there is really interesting. At some point, if you ever go, I'll make some recommendations.
I'd love to.
For sure. I mean, it's an awesome food scene. But you know what I'm getting at is every city has something different and unique, and I feel like the hospitality light is right now on Miami. It feels that way at least.
It does. It does.
If I'm in LA, people are thinking about what's happening in Miami. If I'm in New York, people are thinking about what's happening in Miami.
Yeah.
Especially in Brazil, they're looking at Miami wasn't even on the map for them a couple years ago. it was always like Brazilians would love to go to, let's say, New York or LA, but now Miami is becoming really, really a world power.
Destination.
Huge.
Yeah. And I think, the international population and the community that we have here is one of the reasons why. I remember moving here 10 years ago and going, okay, what is a lot of different restaurants options? It's like I can have anything I want for the whole year and not repeat a restaurant.
Totally.
And I think people are just discovering that now and going, wow, this is great. This is a great food city.
Yeah, I agree. So you've worked with quite a few students. I know you said you have quite a few students that are very creative. What are some specific ideas you've heard as of recently that really, I guess, excited you, shocked you, or maybe even scared you?
From the students.
Yeah, from students.
Well, I don't know if there's any one's recent. I guess the most recent one is has to do with a pop-up restaurant. One of our students, she's actually, I don't believe, working on the restaurant space at the moment. She's working in a hotel.
Got it.
But she's always wanted to do a pop-up restaurant. And I asked her why. I said and I didn't want to discourage her because the pop-up restaurants are not a new thing.
Yeah.
But what she really has is the entrepreneurial spirit, right? And this is why I think, okay, let her try it. Let's help her out, provide the facilities, connect her with the right people, help her with the marketing and the social media push on that one, and let her try it. And I think this is what I really admire about students is the ability to just, I can do this, right?
For
and
sure.
There's nothing stopping them at all.
Yeah. No, I agree. It's like that grit and hustle and spirit. It's like, it truly is that ignorance is bliss. Like I always joke that, I mean, I've been in business for 10 years. It's funny enough, my only job I've ever had in my life, well, first job, I was a busboy and a host at BJ's Pizza in high school.
Okay.
And then my second, well, really my only real job I was head of social media at Casamigos.
Oh, nice.
Almost 11 years ago. I used to work in their Malibu office. And I learned a lot from that team early on. Randy Gerber right there in the office with me, and it was incredible. And surprisingly enough, I was only there a very short time. I turned out to be a terrible employee. And
you went off and did your own thing.
And I went off and did my own thing. And that was almost 11 years ago. And now our team, we have 60 employees.
Wow.
We have we've worked with over 2,500 brands in 3 different countries. And it's so interesting for me because you talk about students that just have this willingness to go.
Yeah.
I always joke with people I talk to that me getting fired at Casamigos was the best thing that ever happened to me because it really forced me to figure it out. I mean, I was really ignorant in the beginning. I had no idea what I was doing, right? And so you kind of just have to have that spirit to keep going.
And the hospitality industry itself is always innovating. It's always dynamic. Something different is always happening, right? And I mean, who would have ever predicted we'll get a pandemic that shuts down hospitality?
For sure.
I mean, when that happened, we were like...
But here you guys were still pretty open, right, in Miami?
Yeah, we just shifted online.
Yeah. But you were still very open relative to like New York or LA, I'm saying.
Yes, as a state, we have a governor who's very open-minded, and he, way ahead of everybody else, decided, yes, outdoor seating is not a problem, 50% capacity, not a problem.
Yes.
Mask off 3 weeks before the 2021 festival happened.
Yep.
Was a blessing. Those are the kind of things, it's just, what I was trying to say is, the way our students think today, we need to encourage that.
Yes, I agree.
And when I look at what we're doing at the school and how we're preparing, we keep saying we're preparing the next generation of hospitality leaders.
Yeah.
So I challenge my team and go, okay, great. We can teach them to be the best at running a restaurant, the best at running a hotel. We can teach them real estate analysis skills. But are we really teaching them to think outside of the box? Right? And this is where I realized, I said, exactly like you, the whole entrepreneurial thinking is either in them or we just never taught it to them. And we didn't teach it to them, then I think it's a failing on our side.
Do you feel like part of having that entrepreneurial spirit is kind of something you're born with, or it can be for sure taught? Is it kind of a mix?
I think it can be taught. Like,
Yeah.
I wish I was taught entrepreneurial thinking and having the spirit, because I know I have the spirit, but I I'm a little older than you.
How old are you, by the way?
53.
I was gonna say you look really young. 'Cause you're
Thank
talking about 20 years here, 10 years here. I would have not guessed 53.
It's the Asian genes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but I feel that at this point in my career, the only way for me to start something new is actually to stop what I'm doing and just start over.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure that my generation, which Gen X, that we have the ability or the guts to do that. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of holding me back,
I hear what you're saying. But I would say you still are very much an entrepreneur. I mean, what you've done with South Beach Wine and Food, New York as well.
Yeah, I can't take the credit for the festival. It's really Lee Schrager and his team. But it's a joint effort for sure.
For
'Cause
sure.
The festival wouldn't be what it is without the students.
100%.
And if you think about walking in, the first interaction you're gonna have is the student, right?
For sure.
And then it's a really beautiful story, not just in terms of the proceeds and the funds they raises, but also how we're changing the students' lives. It's just incredible that a student can come back year after year and get more progressive responsibilities. And then they go out there and start working for event management companies. And I want to say about 30% of Lee's team today that runs the festival year round
Yeah.
are FIU hospitality alumni.
Wow.
They started off as volunteers, became interns, started working.
Huge.
Yeah.
Well, the reason I think that's so cool is because I'm a pretty aggressive paid advertiser, right? I mean, I spend about 1.5 million a month on ads.
Wow.
I'm very deep.
Very aggressive.
Yeah. And I always kind of joke that you can't learn paid ads in school because how would you, right? I mean, you can learn to maybe trade the stock market with like these fake stocks and you can play the market hypothetically.
Yeah.
But you can't run an ad unless you pay to play, right? And so you can only learn by spending money.
Yeah.
But what you guys have done, you and Lee and the team, you actually can. You actually can do the thing, learn in the process, and give students the opportunity to learn and grow into something.
Yeah.
So that's super unique.
It's all experiential learning,
That's
hands-on.
but that's so unique just to you guys. I mean, that's incredible, really.
Thank you. I mean, it's at the end of the day, what we're doing really is a movement. It's not just a wine and food festival. We're not just there to have a great time. There's a cost, for the students who
For
order
sure.
for it. This brings a lot of branding and recognition to the city of Miami too.
Huge.
Right? And what we're doing on Miami Beach too is just brings a lot of out of town people as well.
100%. Yeah. It's interesting because again, I'm from California, and people ask me all the time, "Why would you move to Miami? Why did you do that?" And they just don't get it yet.
Once they get here, they're not leaving.
Yeah, I mean, I'm like, hey, I moved here within 6 months. I bought a spot in Edgewater, and I'm like, I'm staying. Like you can't pay me to leave.
Yeah,
I wouldn't.
We did a study last year too, the 2024 festival, an economic impact study, and it showed that the festival brings in $31.2 million in economic impact. I mean, that is crazy from 4 days, from all the rooms, the transportation, the restaurants. It's just
So you're helping
incredible.
explode the economy. That's incredible.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
We also get asked, it's like, is it duplicable? Can you create the same festival in a different city? And my answer is usually, well, yeah, you can try as long as you have the right ingredients. The right ingredients for us is a strong partner like Southern Glazers Wine and Spirits. They've been with us since the very beginning. And then another very strong ingredient is Lee Schrager himself.
Yeah.
Like, good luck trying to find another Lee Schrager
100%. And I read recently that you also you have a program now also at FIU incorporating David Grutman into the program.
Yes.
How's that been for you guys?
It's been great. David is such an amazing partner. It started, I think, 6 years ago, maybe 7 years ago. And David has been guest speaking at FIU Hospitality for many years. He come in, does one short lecture, and then he leaves.
Yeah.
And then there was an opportunity for me to meet him based on my professor's insistence. So I went to his house, and within 3 minutes of sitting down, he goes, "Well, I want to teach a class." I was like, "Okay, sure. What would you like to teach?" "Well, what do you need?" I said, "Well, you're great with businesses. You have many restaurants, and you have a hotel being built at that point." So I said, "What about like an entrepreneurship class?" It was great. "Well, let's talk some more about it." And then so the first time he was going to teach, I gave him a syllabus. I gave him, this is what we do. These are the assignments you got to have. These are learning objectives. And guess what? He followed zero. He did not do anything I told him to do.
No way.
He did it his way. And his way was very unique. He says, I'm going to talk about my businesses. I'm going to talk about how I succeed and how I fail. I'm going to share with him everything. He brought them to his restaurants, and then he started bringing in the surprise factor is his celebrity guest speakers. And they would come in, and I'm not sure if they actually prepped before that, but they would echo his story. It wasn't always, roses from the first day. There's failures, there's bad decisions.
For sure.
Yeah, but it's all about humility, right? And learning from your experience. So
Wow.
I think that's what the students love. And after the first semester, I said, David, this is amazing. It completely blew my mind. We started with a class of, initially we're shooting for 35. Within the first hour of opening the class for enrollment, we went up to 50. Then he says, well, I need put 200 in there. So I said, David, the biggest classroom I have is 170.
Oh my
So
God.
I said, put in that classroom there. And say, okay. Not knowing if we would actually ever fill the classroom, we did. Yeah.
Wow.
So that was before the pandemic. And then we didn't want to stop it during the pandemic. So here's the other story, right? What I did, we want to do this class again. It was so popular last time. Can we offer it again outside?
Yeah.
He goes, yeah, why not? So he agreed to that. We actually set up on the terrace of a convention center on campus, spaced 6 feet apart chairs every night. Not every night. Every time the class met for
Wow.
6 weeks, and held everything outside, microphones and everything. And that was the first time we had any gathering more than 200 people in any location before anything was even open.
Wow.
So it's all about
That's
pushing the
amazing.
boundaries.
That's amazing. Yeah, our team has spoke with their team for a while now.
Yeah.
About working together. We did a big company event recently where we booked like 40 of their rooms at the Swan Hotel. Or sorry, not Swan Hotel. The Good Time Hotel.
Good time, yeah.
We did the Good Time Hotel, and then we did Swan a Saturday with this big launch event for our software. And we wanted to go. We did everything through Groot. It was incredible. The team was awesome to work with. And they've made a huge name for themselves here in Miami.
Absolutely.
So I can imagine that the class would be a huge hit. I mean, that's
Yeah.
incredible.
And when he teaches, it's not just him; it's him and his entire team.
Yeah,
He once told me,
that's awesome.
He said, "Don't put the class later in the week, because we initially had it on Thursday. The second time we ran it, we moved it to Wednesday." He goes, "No, I want to do it on Tuesday." I'm like, "Why?" He goes, "Because my entire team works with me on this thing. If you put it on a Thursday, the whole week is basically lost because we're working on the class." I'm like, oh, okay. So now we do
Yes.
it on a Monday or Tuesday.
Nice, very very cool.
But he brings in his corporate team, and he really does give a lot of credit to the folks that he works closely with.
Well, 100%. So so tell me this: how do you continue learning and getting better at what you do? Is there specific books you seek out, podcasts,
So
anything?
I have a confession. I'm a lousy reader.
Okay, no problem.
The
Yeah.
last time I actually read something I needed to read was probably for my dissertation. And that was 12 years ago, 14 years ago.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I can handle information in short bursts. I don't mind doing, the little apps, like
Yeah,
the news.
for
little
sure.
short bursts. I get that stuff there. But I think what really helps me improve
Yeah.
is the desire to keep learning, right?
For sure.
Like, I realized after living in Miami for 10 years that my Spanish is not very good. So I downloaded the app. So
Yes. Which app did you get?
Duolingo.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
Can I make a suggestion
Sure.
on the app? Okay. So I'm not fluent, but I basically learned Portuguese in the last 2 years.
Wow.
And 2 years.
Through which app?
Using an app called Pimsleur.
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 Like
Now,
the-
I also have a professor now that I work with 4 times a week, so that also helps tremendously. But I started with this app called Pimsleur. And I did it in Spanish years ago. My Portuguese, unfortunately, at this point has just dominated my Spanish. So, like, I understand Spanish, but it's harder for me to speak Spanish now than Portuguese because the languages are so similar that it's like my brain can only choose one at a time. So
Interesting.
I would definitely recommend Pimsleur, and the
Okay.
reason I like it is it's all audio. So you can go for a walk or a run or whatever and just put in your AirPods or headphones and just listen, and that's it. And you're literally learning from listening to conversations, and it's incredible.
Somebody told me about that too. And I forget, there's a term for it where you're learning multiple languages at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's all by true conversation.
Yeah, it's all conversation.
Yeah.
And then what's even crazier, check this out. So I know you like AI. I love AI. You can use ChatGPT and talk to ChatGPT and say, hey, I speak English. I'm learning Spanish. I'm a beginner. Can you have a basic conversation with me in Spanish? And if I say something wrong or incorrectly, can you please stop and correct me?
I did not know that.
And it's incredible.
I had no
So
idea.
I take my dog for a walk in the morning and at night, twice a day, and I'll just be talking in Portuguese to my AI professor.
Yeah. I had no idea.
You know what I'll do? I'm gonna make you a chatbot specifically for this. So you can make custom GBTs that are like specifically for something. So I made myself a Brazilian Portuguese professor that has like a carioca, which is like a Rio slang, and uses slang from São Paulo.
Wow.
And so you can specialize it. It's
I'm gonna
very,
try that.
it's very interesting. I'll send it to you.
I'm
I'll make you one and send it to you tonight.
I'm going to try that.
It's incredible.
I do wonder though, because I'm also a visual learner. I'm kinesthetic. I like to learn by touching, doing, and so I've always wondered when someone says something to me in Spanish, I have no idea what they just said. If I would understand it better, if I could see the words, which is what Duolingo is doing for me. But Duolingo, at least the unpaid version or the non-super premium version that I have, doesn't give me the grammar behind it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, I have no idea why it's this word, but I guess this is why.
So what this will do, this app too, is you'll listen, and then there's like exercises after if you want to review and look at the words.
Ah,
It's super helpful.
Pimsleur.
Pimsleur.
All right.
Yeah. Shout out to
Downloading.
Pimsleur. Great app.
Downloading that tonight.
Yes. And so I told you I had AI do this like deep research on you. And these are not questions I would typically like ask, but I was just curious. I wanted to ask you. Okay.
Let's see how much of it is true.
A couple of them we've already gone through. And so these are based off your experience. It's not like you did this, tell me about it. It's more like it looked at you and your personality, other interviews you've done. It researched you basically all across the internet. And it came up with questions that it felt would be good for you. So we'll see if they're actually good.
Let's see.
Okay, so this one is about challenging hospitality dogma. So it says, with over 20 years in hospitality leadership, there's many sacred cows in the hospitality business. Which of these you think should be questioned? So, for example, the old mantra, the customer is always right. Is this always true, or is this potentially hurting the growth and employee culture potentially? What conventional wisdom in hospitality do you think holds the industry back, and what would you propose instead?
That's a deep question.
It's pretty good, right? I was like, this is pretty good AI.
Yeah. I think to start off with, some of those assumptions, like the customer is always right. I think the assumptions that hold true at one point in time and not so much today. Because you do have difficult customers, but I think it's how you view it, right? So for me, hospitality is not about providing a service. It's really about providing the unexpected. Right? So if you're doing that well and it's unexpected to the customer and they're happy, well, there's no reason why the customer will not always be right in that point. But if you're not passionate about what you're doing with hospitality, then it's going to come across, and then the customer is not going to be happy. So it probably affects the reason why the customer is not always right in that sense.
For sure.
Yeah. And what was the second part about?
Just anything else that you feel like is the norm, but potentially probably shouldn't be. Maybe something that is a norm that's honestly holding the industry back.
Yeah. I think there's a lot of opportunity in the trend towards more experiential type events, right?
I agree.
And there's also, marketing is one example too. So people crave experiences. So what if fine dining experience isn't the fine dining experience today? What if there's an opportunity for them to really have more interactions, which is why I believe the Southeast Wine Food Festival is so popular, because you're able to get close and interact with the chefs. They're not stressed up about getting the food out. They're having a great time. They're happy. You're happy. The opportunity to come up close and ask questions, take pictures.
I agree. Speaking of which, by the way, it makes me think of something else. So there has been a major decline in people meeting other people, community since COVID.
Yeah. Yeah.
People are not working from home.
Yeah.
I mean, our whole team, we went from an office in LA to now everyone's remote. And I mean, I'll be honest too, I crave human connection.
Deeply.
I really miss having an office. I think we'll probably open an office next year here. I just am missing it too much.
The interaction.
Yeah.
You know, the spontaneous conversations.
Man, I can't. If I look at another Zoom meeting, I'm gonna go nuts. That's why I like
Yeah.
to do these interviews in person, because I'm like, I can't
Yeah.
do it. Like, I'm going crazy. And what I read about recently was like these run clubs are like
I read about that too.
blowing up.
Yeah. Yeah.
People want that connection.
Yeah.
So I think to your point, 100% huge.
Yeah.
More experiences.
I think we're gonna get back to that more in-person type events and gatherings.
it's driving me nuts again.
Yeah, I
So
fully agree with you on that.
this one is AI wrote a hot take on career paths. Okay, it says the hospitality industry often expects young professionals to pay their dues via long hours and starting at the bottom. Do you think this traditional career path is still relevant today? How would you respond to those who say
Absolutely not.
not at all?
Yeah.
Okay.
I think this it comes from what I call the old guard now, because just because I had to work 5 years in this position to get to the next position, you also have to work 5 years in this position before you're eligible. to
Yes,
be
that's how it
promoted.
used to be.
Yeah. And I just don't think that's true anymore today. Because you have to think about what advances has happened since then. Like today, all AI and technology. So which we were having a conversation earlier, hopefully the time that you are saving by using AI made you more efficient. They can learn better skills.
For
and
sure.
maybe those better skills allows you to move up faster. Right? And I think AI's accuracy is pretty good. You know, it used to be in when you're doing feasibility studies for hotels, you have to really understand, you still do today, spreadsheets and how they flow. So that if there was an error, you could go back and trace the error. AI can do that for you today.
Wow.
Right? It's just plug it in, tell me why is it at this price and why is the recommendation in this case, and then you find it for you.
You know what's interesting also on that topic is like, man, you know, you go to the grocery store and you want to get a carton of eggs. Oh my God, there's like 20
That's
different
ridiculous
types of eggs. It's like, this is organic, this is cage-free, this is pasture-raised, this is not organic. And it's like just wild.
Yeah.
And people are so adamant about getting the special egg or whatever it is, or
Like my
looking
wife.
up the ingredients. Yeah, I'm a little like that too, so I can't talk smack. but there's no visibility or transparency when you go to a restaurant as to really what you're eating. Do you think that could potentially change?
Now, that's a great question. I guess it depends on your mindset and where you're eating, right? I have a tendency to trust the food I'm eating because I also select the restaurants I go to.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm traveling in a foreign country and don't know the area as well or the restaurant as well, then you be a little more selective in which restaurant you choose to go to and read the reviews.
For sure.
Yeah. So when you do that, you're hoping, or you're praying that the food is what they serve you.
100%.
Right. But I'm also an adventurous eater, so which sometimes get me in trouble. So if I'm traveling someplace and I walk by a street stall and it looks great, I'm gonna order it.
Yeah.
I'm not, and I may not speak the language, nor do I understand where it came from or what they're trying to tell me. But man, I just want to try it.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
In those cases, trust the food, I guess.
Yeah. There's that reminds me in Brazil, if you're ever on a beach in Rio, there's all these guys walking around with these little kind of like barbecues trying to serve meat on the beach.
Yeah.
If you ever are there and you get offered, don't take it.
Because
Basically, it's like the lowest quality meat you could ever imagine. They call it carne gigata. It's like basically cat meat.
oh.
Yeah, so don't do it.
Yeah.
But it makes I'm interested by this because, so, for example, have you ever heard of the app Seed Oil Scout?
No, I haven't seen that one.
It's very interesting to me because it's an app where you can basically see a map in your area of restaurants that are seed oil free or contain seed oils in the food,
Really?
and people pay for it.
Wow.
Like it's like $50 a year. And so that's not like a crazy amount, but it's interesting that people are willing to pay to know if there's seed oils in their food.
What's the concern with seed oil?
What's the what?
The concern that they have.
Just the health concerns about it.
Oh.
There's a lot of issues with it. Inflammation, cancer-causing stuff. I won't get into everything on today, but seed oils are terrible for you.
Yeah. You know, my favorite food is also fried chicken.
Yeah, no, fried chicken is incredible.
Yeah, it's just I know stuff that's bad for me, and but I still have favorite stuff, right?
Yeah.
At the end of the day, it all kind of goes back to what my wife told me many years ago: eat whatever you want in moderation.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't eat fried chicken every night of the week, right?
Yes.
Once a month's good.
No, 100%. But it's there, and I mean, even for yourself, right? Like, I think seed oils is becoming something that not everyone really knows quite yet the dangers of it, or what the dangers are there at all. But it's interesting that there's now an app that's blowing up. People have a very strong interest in what's in their food. There's another restaurant that just opened up in Edgewater called Smash Burger.
I heard about them.
And man, oh yeah. So wait, actually, what'd you hear about them? I'm so interested of what you heard.
I was a little confused as to why they was so popular.
Interesting.
Because to me, a smash burger is a burger patty smash. It's not like a brand new concept.
It's exactly it. Yeah.
So then something had to be different, whether it's the seasoning or the way it's served, or people are discovering what they think is a local joint and it's authentic and that kind of stuff. So I'm not really sure until I experience it, I guess, as to what's the secret.
I'll tell you exactly why they blew up.
Why?
Because they make their food without seed oils. No seed oils.
That's the reason?
That's the reason.
Okay.
Seed oils are terrible for you. Vegetable oil, canola oil, all that is not good. No. And it's interesting. So they don't cook with seed oils, and then they cook with beef tallow.
Which is delicious.
Which is delicious and much better for you. And so that's it. I mean, look, I'll say this. The product is delicious. I go there probably, unfortunately, like I was going there like once a week at least for like a while when they first opened. I haven't been in a while, but I'll probably, now I'm thinking about it, go after this. But
so that's a secret.
That's it. I think more and more people are starting to, I'm not going to say wake up, but just be more mindful of it. Like, I think we all know fried chicken's not good for us, but damn, is it good.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah. But it's interesting to see this new direction. So like RFK, who just got, put as the head of health now in the US with Trump, his whole thing is I want to kill seed oils.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, that's the goal. Get rid of seed oils.
I didn't hear about that either.
It's super interesting. Oh, another thing I heard today, which is interesting, is that there's no longer going to be a tax on tips. So the hospitality industry.
Proposal. So it's back.
I think it's passed.
It passed.
I think it passed.
Oh wow.
Yeah. I got to double check. We'll make sure we check before anything. But I'm almost 100% sure it did pass. And I was going to say that will be incredible for the hospitality industry.
100%.
It's a huge win, obviously.
Yeah. I mean, we live off of tips so much too.
100%.
Yeah.
It's going to be huge. One more question from this AI. Let's see.
So may I ask, what's the prompt that you use? Like, do a deep dive and then come up with questions based on the...
No, so I can tell you. And it's wildly interesting because, so it's called, again, deep research in GBT. And what's interesting about deep research is it thinks about what it's doing. And as it's thinking, you'll start seeing on your screen what it's thinking. So it'll say stuff like... so it says right here, it says, okay, check this out. So I'm piecing together the history of RCA, intersection and the growth of culinology. It reads, then it goes, okay, let me see the journey from MIS to hospitality, teaching and leading. It's basically learning about your life. And it's researching you.
That is
and it's
scary.
Understanding you. And it's telling me as it's researching what it's doing.
That's almost like the Terminator coming alive.
Look at Cheng is addressing a shift to a proficiency-based learning approach to fortify the school's core values. Then it searched this about you, and it did a lot of searching on you.
So it just keeps building upon what it learns.
Yeah, it basically is researching you. It learns something and then goes to the next thing to research and then goes to the next thing. And it keeps diving through the internet to learn more about you. Then it comes up with a list of questions. So like I read all these news articles about you on FIU as well.
That is wow.
And then it looks in the articles for the references too. So it keeps, I know. It's for anyone listening or watching, I mean, it's AI is really incredible. And that's what I liked about you said with your data question earlier, or your data answer, because now with the data, I mean, imagine a world where we can do this stuff and you can ask the AI based on the data that you've learned about my restaurant, what are things that I should or could be doing to increase my profits?
Yeah.
I mean, I talk to restaurants all the time who don't know which items of theirs are most profitable and which ones are least profitable.
That is wild. I mean, that's
It blows
like
my mind.
basic POS looking at the reports.
Yes. So actually, I'll give you the whole prompt right here. I'm interviewing Dean Michael Cheng in 1 hour for a podcast. I did this literally an hour before. You can find some info on him here. So I pulled up your profile. Can you also do some research on him and give me 10 great questions to ask him that will get great answers in terms of something surprising, interesting, or shocking?
Those are great prompts.
Also, be sure to give me a few questions that are a hot take.
Those are okay.
Interesting, right?
Interesting.
So then it asks me, got it. Before I begin my research, can you clarify, is there a specific focus for your podcast, like leadership, blah, blah, blah? I said entrepreneurship, leadership, hospitality, marketing, and future business growth strategies via technology. And so then it says, cool, I'm going to start my research. And it takes like 5 minutes.
Okay.
It's really doing some intense research. It gave me basically a summary about you, which was, I thought, pretty impressive, by the way. Again, congrats.
Thank you.
Pretty cool stuff.
But how would you know that it's accurate, though?
So it gives me all the sources.
Oh, okay, because of the sources.
It's crazy. So, by the way, I don't use Google anymore.
Yeah, me too.
At all.
Me too.
I think companies who focus on Google SEO, they're making the wrong choices right now.
I agree.
Just be honest.
I agree.
So then it gives me a summary about you. And then it gives these 10 thought-provoking interview questions.
Wow.
And it's sure to like pull something about you. And also, the whole idea is like thought-provoking. So not just like, what books you like, but like it goes deeper.
Those two that you asked me definitely are thought-provoking.
Yes.
It's not your
typical,
interview questions.
So let's do this. There's one
that.
more about marketing in the digital age. So it says you recently discussed preparing the next generation for hospitality professionals on a hotel marketing podcast, which was Travel Media Group. I found that. Crazy. It listens to you. It's kind of scary. From where you stand, how has hospitality marketing evolved for modern consumers? Are traditional selling points like room comfort and location enough, or should hotels and restaurants be marketing experiences, lifestyles via Instagram and TikTok?
100% experiences. Yeah.
So how would you do that? Like, how would you market the experience through these digital platforms?
I think, influencers is one way, but the hotel themselves, the brand themselves, whether it's a restaurant or hotel, need to think about what their brands are. You cannot just be another Thai restaurant. Like, what is it that you're producing that makes yourself different?
True.
Right. So, and then what is the phrase? What's your stick? Right. That's gonna stick in your mind for the consumer.
For sure.
It's no longer just great food, because you can get great food, especially in a city like Miami where there's so many restaurants. You could go to a Thai restaurant around every corner, right? A Thai/Japanese restaurant, which I also found to be interesting. I haven't seen that concept anywhere other than Miami. That they will combine the two cuisines together. It's weird. But it works. So.
That's interesting. And you're so right, because as you were explaining this, I was just thinking about my recent experience with my fiance and I and her stepdad and mom are going to the Keys next week, Key West. And I've been to Key Largo and we had a great time, but they're flying in from Brazil and they really want to see Key West. And I've never been, so I'm just researching. And to your point, I'm looking at all these hotels and I'm like, I see the price, I see the reviews, but what's the experience like?
Yeah.
And I felt like some of these hotels, one hotel we found, it was like they hired, it looks like 3 people, like, a couple and then like some guy or girl, whatever.
Yeah.
And they just did like a photo shoot and they've been using these photos for like the last 6 months. Our whole news feed on Instagram is this. And I just felt, we didn't book there. I was like, this doesn't feel authentic, real. I'm not getting the vibe that I'm trying to be sold, and it's not doing a good job, basically, is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
So interesting.
Yeah. It really is a whole new skill set. And I think the ones who figured it out 6 months ago, a year ago, really doing well.
Yeah. And any brands come to mind in particular that you think are doing a good job at this?
I'm mostly impartial to the Sandals brand in the Caribbean because I think
Nice.
Adam Stewart, by the way, is on my advisory board, and I love the guy. But
Amazing.
he is such a forward-thinking and impressive individual, really. What he's done with the brand and how he's really branded the Caribbean as a destination. We spoke about that. All these tariffs and all these no immigrants. I mean, we're basically just driving away tourism, right, from the United States.
Yeah.
And guess who's the closest to Miami? The Caribbean.
Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
Easy to get in. You get the same thing as you want out there. It's safe.
True.
So people are gonna end up going there, and what's gonna happen? We're gonna end up losing on the tourism piece of it.
100%.
So I think it's done a really good job with portraying the Caribbean, Jamaica as a destination that's safe, that's exciting. There's all these amenities and experiences that you could find whatever you want to do.
That's awesome. No, I agree. I mean, I think on the marketing stand, I've seen a lot of their market. I think they do a phenomenal job.
Yeah.
They are extremely impressive.
Yeah. And they're using a lot of data analytics.
Yeah. I could see this is what if you're listening and you're hearing, you've now been here the whole hour and a half we've been speaking. This is what drives me nuts about the people. They are ignoring the data. Is like
Exactly.
the opportunities are endless if you can understand and make sense of it. Really.
Yeah.
So kind of as we wrap up here, if we've gone through a lot today, I've learned a lot. This has been incredible. Number one, thank you.
No, thank you.
If you could step in my shoes and ask yourself a question, what is one question you feel like maybe we didn't cover today that you feel like is important that you think we should discuss or you want to share?
I like to say that I'm not a very reflective person, but sometimes I think about it. Especially
we covered a lot.
When I only think about stuff when I'm on my Peloton in the morning. Then I'm like, okay, I gotta talk to somebody about this. I gotta make a note. Remember, do this once I get in today, kind of thing. And while I'm doing that while I'm on the bike, but the rest of the time, my work day is usually meetings and then conversations and then more meetings. So I don't really get a lot of time to reflect on what I do, right? And I would love to have more time. So I've always said, one day I'm gonna retire as a dean. I'm gonna have a whole lot of time on my hands, and then I'm not gonna figure out what to do with my life. And then I'm gonna think about like, how did I end up from Malaysia in Lincoln, Nebraska? Like, what was the point that made me go, yeah, I want to go live in the middle of the country.
Yeah, but that's amazing. I think it's your story is so interesting, and I think it's always interesting because it's hard to predict always what's going to happen, but you can always trace back the steps.
Yeah.
You can still always wonder how the hell did that happen, but at least you can see the sequence of events.
Yep.
And your sequence of events has been super interesting, man. I ask myself sometimes at the same time, like,
I think yours is far better than mine.
we'll see. Man, I went from, there was a moment, it was so funny, because I grew up in Laguna Beach, California. Beautiful, beautiful home, beautiful place, great situation. And I remember finding myself in Brazil when I was living there. And I had a couple moments where I was just thinking to myself, how did I end up here? And I'm trying to learn the language and I don't know anyone. And I'm like, how do we get in these situations sometimes in life, right?
Exactly.
But I think these are all the things that make life interesting and special at the same time.
Like me being a dean today was not a planned career.
Yeah.
It just happened, Me ending up in higher education was also not planned. I remember when I was a kid growing up, and I spent a lot of time in the kitchens watching my mom and my auntie cook, and then be like, yeah, I love food. So that's always been back there. It just didn't surface until I came here to the U.S. and changed majors twice, ended up with hospitality.
Yes.
And my first job was a food service manager.
This is
ended
so
up working
cool.
in kitchens. And even at that point, I was like, okay, I love the kitchen. I love working with people. Never thought I would actually teach. Right? It was one of those moments where some professor had backed out or didn't make it or canceled the class, and they needed somebody to step in. And they looked around and go, well, you have a master's degree. Why don't you do it? I said, what's the topic? Introduction to Culinary Management. Yeah, I suppose I could do that.
Wow.
So that's how I first got into teaching. Right? And how I even got to the dean's role here was not planned. It was one of those things where I got a call from my provost at that point. It was Ken Furton. And he talked to me about like, I want to make some changes in the school. I'd like for you to step up and be the interim dean. I go, you're crazy because there's 3 other people above me who are more senior with more experience. He goes, yeah, but I want to make change, and you're the change. I go, no, I think you got to talk to those people first. Basically trying to talk him out of giving me the job at that point. And then he said the one thing that's really profound. He goes, if you don't take the job and I hire somebody else and you don't like the somebody else, you just have yourself to blame. I was like, damn, he's so right. So
Yeah.
I think that's where my adventurous, sense kicked in. I was like, okay, I'll do it. Not what I was planning on doing, but if I don't like it, you can have it back.
Yeah. Yeah.
Turns out I liked it. 7
turns
years
out,
later.
Yeah, that's amazing. Well, yeah, man, and I think that's what's interesting about life too. Is like sometimes we take these leaps of faith, unknowing what will happen.
Yeah.
But I think that's what makes things exciting.
Oh, I do know. You could ask. One thing you didn't ask me is like, what's my
Yes.
greatest failure?
Yes,
And not
I have that
something-
actually here also.
Not something I'm proud of.
Yes.
And it's part of my route to get my doctorate. And I had that point, I was a PhD student, had zero idea about this whole concept of academic hazing. It's real. Because professors who went through the process to get the doctorate feels that you should also go through the same process. So if it's painful for them, you're going to be, you'll also have a painful experience. And I learned that professors like to believe that they are the ultimate know-it-all. At that point, I was also a professor, just didn't have my PhD. So one of them on my committee told me you needed to do this part for your research. I literally ignored her. So when it came time for me to defend my dissertation, they go, where's the qualitative part? I had no answer. So I got a non-passing, basically, go redo it. and
Oh
add the
my
piece in there.
God.
I remember leaving the meeting. I was like bawling my eyes out, calling my wife. I just failed my dissertation.
No way.
6 months later, I had to go back and defend it. Then I passed.
Wow. Well, good for you. Going back.
So-
My God. Man, Michael, it's been such a pleasure chatting with you. You have such an interesting
you.
story, and I've learned so much today, honestly. It's been really cool.
It's been really fun. Thank you.
We got to chat again some other time.
Yeah, I'd
and,
love to.
I'm going to be a yearly attendee for sure at South Beach Wine and Food. after
You're my
first
guest
year.
next year.
I can't wait.
We need to exchange numbers. So,
Yes, 100%, man. Well, thanks a lot. And I guess if anyone wants to learn anything else about you online, are you on Instagram?
I'm on Instagram. Yeah, it's at prof.cheng, prof.cheng. I really don't want the dot in there, but somebody else has the Prof Cheng. So.
No worries. Okay, so we'll put a link below this episode as well.
Or at FIU Hospitality, which is our school's website, Instagram.
Perfect. We'll put those links both below this episode. And again, thanks again, and we'll be in touch real soon.
Thank you so
Look forward-
much.
Thanks.
It's been great.